one they fear. In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin.
Grummz.
Try to impose their ideology against all of us. Try to prevent free thinking. They're altering wikis for Warhammer. They're altering wikis for historical figures like Yasuke and trying to make a fiction reality. They're going after me for telling consumers that these games have DEI and you may not want to buy them.
10 years ago when I did Gamergate, I had so many women DMing me their and DMing me everything else and trying to get with me, and all this is going to do is encourage that.
Brother, what's that, brother?
In November 2011, the video game world changed forever. A few short years after Bethesda released Fallout 3 and created video essay fodder good for the next 10 years at least, they came out with a much anticipated follow-up to Oblivion, one of the best fantasy games ever made. If you ignore all of the jank and are okay with every character looking like if Laura Loomer were rendered on an N64, but think not of Laura's Loomer, or Falls Out, or Obliv's Ian, because lo, the Dragonborn comes! The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, was finally available to the masses. And for the next 15 years, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim would be again made available to the masses, like pretty much every year, with sometimes not even any changes. The Legendary Edition, the Switch version, Skyrim Connect, Skyrim VR, Skyrim Remastered. And although this was tedious, they were welcome distractions from Fallout 4 and the wet fart that was Starfield.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Although, being set in the future, Starfield did, of course, give us one of Bethesda's most ambitious additions to its gameplay yet. That being fucking pronouns, fucking gender ambiguity, fucking current day California shit.
You take everything we love, because that's all we fucking know! Because we're boring! We're so fucking boring!
What was her problem?
Was fucking current day California shit really all they fucking knew? Were Bethesda really as boring as this giant Angloid baby screamed it was, as he cried and shat his unwashed pants? Well, 14 years after the release of Skyrim, the original release I mean, not a Skyrim Gold Edition featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series or whatever new version Todd Howard chat out this year, Bethesda are finally teasing the follow-up to one of the most popular games of all time. The Elder Scrolls 6 something. We don't know what it's called. Although, to be fair, we are running out of regions on the Elder Scrolls map, so there's a good chance it's Valenwood or elsewhere, and given the amount of press you'd get from furries, the more Khajiit in the region, the better, you know? At least that's what I would be saying if I were in the Bethesda marketing department. After all, gay people in giant animal suits have wares, if you have coin.
Money, please!
Oh, no, there's no money.
Yet, would appealing to the furries not also piss off a certain very loud but very silly portion of the gaming community? Namely, the very same people who spent Starfield's life cycle screaming about fucking pronouns and fucking gender ambiguity?
Sorry, did you want to get immersed in our world? Yeah, well, guess what?
Why, yes, it might. Because anything that's not the most He-Man looking boring white men, so bricked up they look like bodybuilders who've taken enough steroids that their penises are going to wilt like a dying flower, makes people like our aforementioned giant Angloid baby or giant yank baby Grummz, an online gaming personality and former game developer who pretends to still be a game developer so he can scam people into thinking he's going to make a video game that'll never come out. You know, a man who uses an avatar that looks like a giant baby, has a name like a giant baby, and whines like a giant baby, and has a breast milk fetish, allegedly. Absolutely infuriated. That was a long way to get to the sentence, but I hope you could string it together.
So, she was hot, man. She was hot.
So is that something that is like cool to explore, or is that something that you'd rather not?
1967, the year before I was born, Christmas edition, and I talked to my mom about this, and she's totally cool with it. If you want to go find that issue and find a section called Women of Asia, she's in there, and she would actually appreciate it if you actually talked about that and posted it. She would get
I do like the Asian women. What the fuck?
Although, apparently, it didn't even take the contents of The Elder Scrolls 6 to get Grummz, a man who definitely didn't steal breast milk from the Blizzard Company fridges after he was let go from ruining World of Warcraft, weeping on the internet as if a rival giant baby had stolen his lollipop.
Try to impose their ideology against all of us. Try to prevent free thinking. Try to prevent informed consumers. You know what they did to Brutus's site? They DDoS'd him again, twice. I just tweeted about that this morning before I made my post about the doxing. They're going after Brutus. They're going after me for telling consumers that these games have DEI and you may not want to buy them. You may want to make an informed decision. And meanwhile, they are so desperate, they are not only doxing us, they are not only trying to attack us every single day from behind the cowardly block, they are retconning history. They are altering wikis for Warhammer. They are altering wikis for historical figures like Yasuke. And trying to make a fiction reality in front of our very eyes. Everyone needs to wake up to this.
You see, Grummz, also known as Mark Kern, also known as Debbie Chan, in between running adult websites literally owned by his mother that involve women getting abused and assaulted, and not making his supposedly upcoming video game Ember, something that has been crowdfunded for years and the guy just refused to work on or fund people for so long, in fact that the name of the video game got taken on Steam and that he can't get it back. Well, between that horrifying series of dumpster fires, Grummz watched some videos Bethesda recently put out about the production of The Elder Scrolls 6. Well, that's not entirely honest. The production of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, because Todd Howard has a problem, featuring some of their long-time employees who've worked on several of their games. Critically acclaimed games that Grummz and people like him claim to be massive fans of. The thing is, he hadn't seen their faces before, and when he opened his big baby eyes, he saw a woman that didn't immediately make him want to goon. And that, because of the kind of guy he is, the kind of guy that told a right-wing podcast to go jack off to pictures of his mum in the middle of allegations coming out, made him fume with rage.
I've contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves!
But who were these women that Grummz was furious he couldn't goon to? What did they do? Are they really Bethesda employees? Or are they diversity hires with blue hair and pronouns brought in to ruin the game industry and do the great replacement but for replacing gamers with a bunch of queers? Well, none of that last thing is true, but it's exactly what Grummz apparently thinks, along with many like him, on YouTube, in real life supposedly, since they have to live somewhere, and in his comment section. To take you through this and investigate if women really can work in video games, and if so, why people are so horrified to find that they can, I, Bridget Empire, am here to be the Lydia to your Dragonborn, the adoring fan to your Hero of Kvatch, the dog meat to your Lone Wanderer. Nope, don't like that one. Regardless, I will be there. The great and ever-reliable science and culture correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, the only newspaper in Britain that serialised the lusty Argonian maid. Some in the British media like to think they can handle some bawdy humour, but they can't handle a sexy lizard woman, much like some other people from this cursed island.
Fucking pronouns! Fucking gender ambiguity!
Grummz, aka Debbie Chan, aka Mark Kern, is a social media culture warrior for the far right, focused on video games only having characters that are either men built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and usually just as pale, or women with flat stomachs and breasts so big you could use them as life vests if you were lost at sea. He worked at Blizzard Entertainment, the company that brought you World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, Diablo, the other Diablos, and Overwatch, and did work at World of Warcraft during its original development cycle. Although apparently he has grossly exaggerated his role in the years since, his name having been purged from certain works about the game, and supposed colleagues either not mentioning him at all when it would be relevant if he were as important as he claims to have been, or actively talking shit about him. Upon leaving Blizzard, Kern co-founded a games company called Red 5, producing the game Firefall before collapsing completely. Many in the years since have credited the studio's demise to the decision to commission a tour bus to promote the game that was completely immobile and therefore not a good bus, and was made by West Coast Customs. Yes, the Pimp My Ride people, for $3 million. This was Mark's idea. A few short months after the bus was revealed and towed around town in a poor attempt to promote the company's one relatively obscure game, Mark Kern was fired. Mark Kern claims he wasn't fired, but the email announcing his firing is now public knowledge. This would not be the first time this man would lie about his job. And that's not even getting into what he possibly lied about from his time at Blizzard. Since the tour bus that wasn't a bus and couldn't tour and cost $3 million debacle, Mark Kern has been trying to get people to support his alleged video game, Ember, spelled EM-8ER, which looks and sounds like a really bad 2000s nu metal band. Ember is supposedly a spiritual successor to Firefall, but that being true would require it to exist. So far, Ember has crowdfunded minimum $600,000, with only a very bad and very janky demo to show for it. And Kern has been selling subscriptions to this game that does not yet exist since 2019. People have been waiting for this game as long as some of us have been waiting for the Winds of Winter. Okay, that's not entirely fair, I've been waiting since fucking 2011 for that. If you want to get real messy about this, it turns out that Mark Kern spent years not working on this game he was actively selling subscriptions for, and instead working on his mum's company, which actually isn't his mum's company, just in her name, and is instead a catfight adult fetish site, for which he also used company funds and equipment for while he was at Red 5, pre-Giant Fail Bus. Now, I'm not going to litigate all of this any further. If you're interested in the scandals I've been alluding to, you can check out the Goononomicon series of videos that I'll link below. I just wanted you to get a clear picture of who this incredibly strange baby VTuber of a man was before we discuss his reactions to seeing pictures of long-term Bethesda employees that have helped produce some of the most beloved games in history, and the hate and harassment he drove towards them. People that have done far more for the game industry than he ever has, or even has the ability to, purely because they aren't the type of women he cast in his secret side job. On the 28th of May 2025, in a tweet that has since been edited, and so it might have been even worse before I got this screenshot of it, Mark posted pictures of 3 developers on The Elder Scrolls 6. And in a rage I imagine is only possible from someone who blew multiple millions of dollars on a bus that can't drive from the Pimp My Ride gang, got fired for it, and spends his free time literally making material depicting women being abused, wrote, Elder Scrolls 6 leads. Odds on if they are woke skulls or not. It may not be fair, but pattern recognition and years of DEI have made gamers very cynical. AAA has bashed gamers and injected stuff into the games for so long that gamers are going to default to assuming the worst. And they are not wrong. At this point, AAA needs to prove themselves, and this is a situation they have created. The situation they have created that justifies raging at pictures of employees being interviewed? Just having female employees? I'm sure Mark would prefer it if they were foxy fighters, or if they would hire some other girl, a Debbie-chan maybe, the egg we don't want to acknowledge, because honestly, as much as I love the trans community, I think we're better off without Mark Kern in it. We can exclude one egg, as a treat. Mark Kern knew what he was doing with this. He posted screenshots of 3 different women with their names and their jobs listed, intentionally making it easy for his followers to harass and bully them, and demand they be fired by Bethesda for not looking like the kind of people Mark and his followers expect or want to be working on a video game, despite them having, for a very long time, worked on video games that they explicitly enjoyed, without them knowing about it. Why would how someone looks, or the fact that they're a woman, mean that they're not fit to be a senior character artist, or a production studio director? I think at this point, there has to be something fundamentally broken in you to see a picture of a woman and get instantly mad. What are you mad at? They're making your favourite game for you, you fucking dork. The least you can do is not bully them off the internet. Or get them fired so that your game takes longer and is of shittier quality because the people who've honed their craft for years got fired due to political pressure from a man who's got such a twisted relationship with women who made an adult website of women fighting and getting abused in his mum's name. Listen to that sentence back and see if you still think this, or Mark, is normal. Or normal? Whatever the word is, it's not.
Hey, you're finally woke.
The women in question were Angela Browder, production and studio director, Christiane Meister, senior character artist, and Megan Sawyer, senior environmental artist, all employees at Bethesda Game Studios, and some of the many, many people working on what inevitably will be a massive game. Now, look at all these women, and see if you can spot why them appearing on camera makes a man like Mark Kern scream about woke skulls and DEI. They're just talking about making a game. A game you like, except they're women. so they must be ontologically evil. And what's worse, they're women who aren't skinny. And one of them even has blue hair. A woman with blue hair working on my video game environments? What if the trees in the Elder Scrolls 6 are going to be woke? What if the bushes have pronouns? Oh God, the fish are going to be non-binary, and now mud crab lives matter. And I know this because a woman appeared on the screen and she had blue hair. Blue hair! Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
These games have DEI and you may not want to buy them.
Predictably, that was basically the result of the statement. Treating these women who are only doing you a service and have done nothing wrong unless you think appearing on camera when you're not a supermodel is wrong because women should be seen and not heard. Yes, thank you, under his eye. As if they are a plague upon everything that is good and holy, that they are going to ruin your games because they worked on them without being men, the fucking humanity. Well, that's the attitude of people riled up by Grummz here. Absolute, and I use this word with the irony intended here, hysteria. I can almost guarantee that these 3 sirens did not grow up playing video games, and if they did, it was just wow. 100%.
It's over. Just like Hollywood, AAA games are dead.
Turns out blue-haired Karens are willing to work for 50% less than a senior male developer, and they help with your DEI score. Of course, they end up completely killing your IP, but by then the hiring managers won't be there anyway. That's a man in a dress. I know a red flag when I see one, and I see 3 of them in this image.
Odds are exceedingly high this will be absolute garbage.
I'm so jaded. Can't tell if they are men in dresses or not, and can't be bothered to figure it out. If I had nothing but the hair dye to go on, I'd say 90% chance. But instead, I'll ask Rock if the people in the images presented have articulated left-wing views, and what they may be.
Remembering games are made by people that love making games.
I don't even know what this is for, but there's no way it's good. Why are non-gamers in charge of AAA game design development? Is this just a business or a game?
Why are there so many trans people at these companies? This seems systemic, as it is statistically improbable for this to be the case.
No! Highly likely. Looking at their hair colours, I'm reminded of this meme. In nature, poisonous creatures will often develop bright colours to warn others of the toxicity. That image screams DEI and affirmative action.
Well, so much for Elder Scrolls 6.
So that's why they made all the female clothes in the remaster look like men's clothes. And they actively worked to cover up the female form. I will never understand why a game company would hire women whom appear repulsive to us to make characters and art that needs to appeal to a largely male audience. If the way they presented themselves speaks to their decision-making for appealing art direction, I am concerned. As a company full of dyed-haired troons that will put out a good product, we all know how this ends.
Yeah, we're getting body type 1 and 2, out-of-place millennial politics, miserable nihilistic sarcasm, and ugly sexist characters for sure. Never pre-order.
Color hair and obese white women on all 3 is all that you need to know.
These are their leads? Are you shitting me? Ain't no way in hell this game isn't filled with woke, trans, and LGBTQ bullshit.
I can smell the mental instability from here in those women's face.
Well, another game lost to unhinged white liberal woman. When is it going to stop? When will us gamers take control back?
Elder Scrolls 6 is over with. Forget it! It will be disgusting shit. Strong, independent proto-bitches have overtaken BGS. They can create their Barbie doll house simulators, or they can play some smaller roles in development. But if they are in lead positions for the Elder Scrolls, the game will not be for men. And TES is supposed to be a game for men in the first place. Women cannot develop a game like the Elder Scrolls has always been and make it good. Only if they are presented to the public as the lead for ESG, score points from damned BlackRock, while someone else is the actual lead, the game will not suck.
Once again, I have to ask, are the gamers okay? These three women, the targets of this outrage, are all Bethesda employees, and have been for a while. In fact, they've been making Bethesda games since before half of these random Twitter accounts, and statistically, about a third of you watching were born. And while there were some voices of reason in the comments of this rage post, they were massively outnumbered, given that this is Twitter we're talking about, and that Mark Kern's audience is just this now. This being ultimately an attempt to stir up a harassment campaign against these women, or at least add pressure for Bethesda to fire them, their long-time employees, for the crime of being women who Grummz didn't want to add to his Foxy Fighters website. Sorry, his mum's Foxy Fighters website. In fact, while I may have lied a teeny bit earlier in framing this around Elder Scrolls 6, that's exactly what Grummz did in his meltdown too. These people are also working on Elder Scrolls 6, but these screenshots are instead from a live stream announcing the remaster of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion that came out recently. They worked on the original Oblivion too, and Skyrim, which is important to note considering they're now being framed as the wokest developers to exist. I mean, they're women, for God's sake, and some of them have blue hair! I bet they even have pronouns! Well, as Pink News, with apologies for citing Pink News, rightly points out in its brief article on the controversy, both games in the series are commonly cited by right-wing, anti-woke groups as examples of apolitical games made before the industry, they argue, went woke, by diversifying video game characters and highlight issues such as feminism and LGBTQ rights. And yet, here is Grummz acting like they're invaders, brought in to ruin everyone's favourite bug-filled story-light video game stealth archer simulator. Not only that, the replies seem to indicate many who are angry about this think that these women are DEI hires, or affirmative action, which are two different things and aren't as common as people think, but also, if they worked on the original Oblivion, DEI initiatives in game studios weren't a super common thing at the time. Now, maybe Todd Howard is more forward-thinking than comes across, but I doubt it, given this is Bethesda, which is, as most of these weirdos that are now super angry at this would have said themselves prior to these photographs, are not exactly a shining beacon of equality. They would have admitted this before the attempts to stir up outrage about having to look at female employees that don't look like Eve from Stellarblade, and the tiniest bit of gender-neutral language appearing in the Oblivion remake. Before all that, they would have admitted that Bethesda is not the ultra-progressive company that I might like it to be. For one, they are now owned by Microsoft's Xbox, which is on the BDS list for a reason. Besides that, famously, a former Elder Scrolls dev who came out as trans was denied healthcare and forced out of the company. This trans employee was eventually given the ultimatum that they'd cover her health insurance if she'd resign and not sue the company for discrimination. In fact, since the names in Leona Farron's story of her horrible treatment following coming out to her team are changed to protect identities, for all I know, one of these women these chuds are now screaming are too woke to be allowed to work at Bethesda could have been one of these people in the company that outed this trans employee to her team against her will, that are guilty of intentional deadnaming and misgendering, left her locked out of her work account for months at a time, and pressured her to leave until she did leave out of fear. How extremely woke of them! But of course, to the kind of people who see a picture of a woman and decide she looks too woke to work, all women and minorities are stuffed into one big blob of people I hate. Women are woke. Trans people are woke. People of colour are woke. Therefore, if I see woman, I see woke, even if one of the women in question might share half of your stupid-ass opinions. And they would not have been saying this about any Bethesda staff even a few short months ago. Even according to those ridiculous woke watch websites that all right-wing gamers started making the last year or so, trying to make sure all woke games are flagged so no one accidentally plays a story with themes said, again, according to Pink News, the infamous website DEI Watchdog, which brands how woke video games are, gives both the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion an apolitical rating of 4 out of 5 stars, while the respective woke rating is just 1 out of 5. All 3 developers worked on both of these games. And as much as if these people that live in a perpetual state of constant outrage got Oblivion or Skyrim on release today for the first time, and saw that you could play as a black person, a woman, even a black woman, which as we all know, is the wokest anyone can be without also being trans and disabled and having blue hair, and refusing to date gamers specifically. If they bought these games on release with the mindset they have now, they would be fuming at how woke a game they were having shoved down their throats, as they're always saying. If we're being honest with ourselves, however, The Elder Scrolls never has the most challenging or in-depth stories, especially given the main faction split in Skyrim was whether you wanted to join the Imperialist Pig Dogs or a fantasy National Socialist black metal band. Where's the neither button, Todd Howard, you coward? Well, if you're me, you can join the Imperials and then kill the Emperor during the Dark Brotherhood questline. That's a pretty good compromise. And what's more is, you had to watch pretty far into the livestream to see the faces of these three women. They weren't the face of the presentation. They're just some of the employees that were interviewed about Oblivion Remastered. There were tons of male employees too, but Grummz wasn't complaining about them. Why isn't Grummz furious about the presence of Tom Mustaine? He's got white hair, which might as well be blue hair, and he's a binaclad. Or how about Lisa Hauge? Jauji? Hauhe? However you pronounce it. Lisa, who is also in this video, is a woman and is a senior UX/UI designer. So presumably also pretty important to the company, and a woman. Is this not everything these people claim to hate? Well, no, because she's skinny and conventionally attractive. So my follow-up question then is, how ugly does a woman have to be woke? If you lose weight, do you get less woke? Is eating food woke? Is salad the only anti-woke food?
You don't make friends with salad.
Grummz isn't skinny either, so presumably he's woke, and he's biracial, which the people he's aligned with are usually frothing at the mouth at seeing in video games. And his alter ego is a woman, so he might even have a little bit of internalized transphobia in there too. And yet he's their hero. Or he was. Until half of even the most frothing at the mouth Outrage merchants realised he'd been scamming them for years, and was never making the game they donated thousands of dollars towards for some reason. But what if these guys are right? What if it's not just that these women have aged 20 years since they first started at Blizzard, and as such, don't look like 20-year-olds anymore? Well, let's look briefly at the qualifications and see. Christiane Meister, senior character artist at Bethesda and one of the women targeted by the post, has worked at the studio for over 26 years and has worked on Bethesda projects as far back as 2002 with The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. Angela Browder, Bethesda's production and studio director, was also targeted by the post, despite the fact she's worked with the studio for almost 2 decades. She worked as a producer on The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and Fallout 4, and worked with quality assurance on Oblivion. Finally, senior environmental artist Megan Sawyer has spent 21 years working to create the world of Tamriel, including the town of Cheydinhal and the interiors of the Imperial City in The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. She also created world art for Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So, if I'm counting right, that makes it 0 points for the chuds, and let's say 5 for everyone else. I think that makes things quite clear.
You can't describe it. That's the hard part about it.
As it turns out, and sit down guys, because this might shock you, women can in fact have jobs, and don't leave your seats just yet. Hear me out. Women also age. I know, shocker. One day Sydney Sweeney will also become 40 years old, and you're going to have to cope with that. Because despite what Grummz may have told you, women are not ornaments that you get to put on your shelf and just watch and admire. They're people, just like you. Well, maybe not just like you. If you follow Grummz, they're more human than you, because you lose some humanity points for dealing with all that mess. Like, if you're on the side of the guy who spent the last few years loudly and proudly trying to make a second Gamergate happen, then some part of your soul is just truly gone. And if we're honest with ourselves, it's probably the part that could talk to women without screaming that they're ruining video games. I can't imagine why right-wingers find it so hard to date women their age. So, what do you do for fun? Oh, me? I'm a gamer. What kind of games are you excited for right now? Well, I was going to pre-order Witcher 4. Until that fucking bitch Siri ruined everything by taking the place of a man. Oh, shit. Sorry. My friend just texted me. It's an emergency. She fell down a well that has incredible signal. You see, no matter what people like Grummz might want you to think, women are human beings with full lives, internal monologues, who desire and have goals and work and age and have preferences, and some of those preferences might be the same as yours. And it's weird that you think women who don't look like someone you would approach at a bar definitely would not be a gamer just on principle, wouldn't like video games, wouldn't make video games, wouldn't have made your favourite video games. Each of these women has done more for game development than Mark Kern ever has. And none of them, I would wager, used millions of dollars in company funds to buy a bus from the Pimp My Ride people that can't drive, and spent more public funds making weirdly misogynistic fetish content in their mums' names. And as long as those of you watching never did anything that bizarre, remember, you might have bad days. You might stumble. You might fall. You might fall into depression, or have days when you feel like you're completely worthless. But no matter what happens to you, you'll always, always be less pathetic and less repulsive than Mark Grummz Kern. Remember that. And thanks for watching.
Fucking pronouns! I love nothing more than to be dragged out at every fucking conceivable opportunity so you can fucking current day us! Current fucking day! Fuck off! We can't see.
Hey, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you like this video, don't give your money to Grummz. Take it away from him. He doesn't deserve it. Don't pay for his Foxy Fighters or his game that's not coming out, and instead, give me money because I make these pretty much every week. Sometimes I take a 3-day extra, but you know, we try to have mental health. I think you get my meaning. But I'm in debt, so bad. Get out, bad me, money me, money good, money now. Please to undebt. From coffee, PayPal, links below as always, or you can sign up to my Patreon or YouTube memberships, where you get early videos, access to the members only Discord, my Nintendo Switch friend code, and some exclusive content, such as interviews with some of your favourite YouTubers, but not Mark Kern, because I have not talked to him. But if I did, he would be on there. I don't know why I would, but he would. You would get that if you were a member, and you would also get your name read out at the end of each video, like these lovely people. LFR, Ahmed bin Mokhradzi, Taylor Wood, Trecoy, Ariella, Hannah Proquar, Robin Thomas, Emily Eisenberg, Kathy 1410 Itchy, Daniel Van Harmelen, Big Lil Boat, George Geddes, Kira B, No Sparkling Heart, Corey, Gianna G, Mightier Than the Sword, Carolyn, Imogen Q, Luciano Frias Andrade, Adam, Harry, Ndog191, Cav, Quesadilla, The Tortilla, Azul, Leron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, No Not That Paul, MB, Wondering Wonder, Lex Phoenix, Ender Cursitz, Mirror D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Martha and or Thorngill, Bob the Builder 544554, Deborah Laboon, Vegas, Zilizathinium, Fitz Whitaker, Amelia Lassette, Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helena Riel, Sierra Whiskey, Ali Catgill, John N, Louis Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Vaden, Robin Podolsky, Turtle Chew, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Tabrogga, Soma Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna McMillan, Callum Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, PJ Lisbrel, Howard Lott, Neronier, Scarjam, Melissa Allen, Butt Burglar, Aratarxis Builds Things, Sarah Francesca Smith, and Rachel. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you soon.
Strong, independent quota bitches.
Why don't we give them a peek?
Let's do it.
All right.
Brother, what's that, brother?
When will us gamers take control back?